Hi, I'm Deke and this is my podcast, Sidetrack'D. These days, not too many movies are truly stand on their own originals. We've just gotten to a point where almost every story being told is borrowing some elements from those who came before. On this episode, we'll be analyzing some movies that embrace the remake culture and in most cases actually did a better job than the originals. So stay tuned as we look at the movies Brewsters Millions, 3:10 to Yuma, Ocean's 11, Evil Dead, Batman Begins, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, along with a follow-up conversation about the movie Crimson Tide. As always, we speak our minds here on Sidetrack'D, and there are major spoilers ahead. You have been warned.
I'm gonna go for the 300 million.
It's man's nature to take what he wants, Dan.
Boski, a Jim Brown, a Miss Daisy, two Jethros, and Leon Spinks.
I feel like I'm losing my mind.
But even for billionaire playboys, 3 o'clock is pushing it.
Lie still. I've never done this before. And there will be blood.
Remakes, reboots, and reimaginings. They're all second chance at bringing a fresh perspective to a story that's been told before. To help me explore 6 remakes we think you should be watching is the one and only, the never duplicated Prince Lloyd. Prince, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Hey, so we just got done doing a screening of Crimson Tide over here. That was something we had discussed on the previous podcast together. Right. So we're making good on a promise. So what did you think for a first timer seeing that movie?
So good.
What were some of the things that kind of stood out to you as far as what really, really drove it home for why it's an awesome movie?
You got two titans just kind of going at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good to see them individually do their things, and then they come together and do them together, and you're like, what? Which one do I look at? Like, I don't know. You know, it's a lot to take.
Yeah, it's crashing waves for sure. We were talking a little bit about the director, Tony Scott. That was the first when him and Denzel got together. I know they did Man on Fire together and Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Denzel has been quoted as saying Tony Scott's his favorite director he's ever worked for.
That's
so
awesome.
They have a great relationship. To see a collaboration of a director and actor that flourished into an amazing career.
The cast jumps out at me because there's so many faces.
Yeah, we were mentioning the cast, and it's because we just out of nowhere just saw Ryan Felipe just staring at goldfish.
Right.
He did nothing in the movie. The kid from Bronx Tale, you had Ricky Schroeder.
The kid from Bronx Tale.
But yeah, no, man, it's an awesome movie, and I'm glad you liked it. So,
loved it.
The reason this got brought up is because you said you don't care for submarine movies.
Right.
Now that you've seen one that you like, would you say you'd be open to others?
Possibly.
Okay. Well, maybe down the line we'll...
This is going to come up again. I can...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
All
I'm
right.
always trying to, expand the minds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of remakes today. You want to talk about Batman Begins, you want to talk about Brewsters Millions, and you want to talk about Ocean's 11.
Right.
So you have Montgomery Brewster,
Mm-hmm.
you have Bruce Wayne, and you have Danny Ocean, who consequently did play Bruce Wayne once.
Mm-hmm.
What drove you to a triple feature about millionaires?
Oh, that's great. I didn't even look at it from that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think I just like rich dudes, apparently. I don't know.
As soon as I start looking at what you had sent me to watch, I was like, hey, this is very money orientated. A lot of dudes can do whatever the hell they want, their finances.
Well, I mean, can do whatever they want. Comes up in a different way with Brewsters Millions, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that together.
Good catch by you.
Yeah,
all
thanks.
right.
Which one would you like to talk about first?
Brewsters Millions.
Money. Until now, Monty Brewster didn't have it, but he just made money the old-fashioned way.
You have 30 days in which to spend $30 million.
He inherited it.
If you can do it, get $300 million. But if you fail, don't get diddly.
We're going to have a lot of fun with this kind of money.
What a country. America, love it.
Richard Pryor and John Candy in Brewsters Millions. Rated PG. Now at select theaters. Check newspapers for locations and showtimes.
I had recently watched it, and it's one of those movies where we talked about last time when you'd be flipping through the channels, if it came on, you'd be watching it. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's kind of like in the middle of the night, I'm flipping through the different streaming services, and it came up on Amazon Prime, and I was like, well, that's my choice. So I had just watched it, and then this conversation came up, and I was like, jokingly, Brewsters Millions. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe you knew it was a remake.
I did not. When you told me it was a remake, the 7th film based on the 1902 book of the same name. I was like, what?
Yeah. No, well, I knew that, and I knew, like, it's Richard Pryor, and this may have been, like, it came out in 85. This may have been my introduction to Richard Pryor. I don't know. And so this movie isn't like a super great movie, like you have to go watch. But if you're at home relaxing on a Friday night, it's not a bad choice.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
So to get ready for this, after reading about how many times this movie's been done and just loving the story, and then there's Richard Pryor and John Candy and the whole lot, watching the original. You've seen the original.
Yes, of course.
All right. So I'm sitting downstairs and I'm about to put the movie on, and my daughter comes down. She's 18. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm putting on this movie. And she's like, "What is this?" And so we sit down and we start watching the movie. And it's fine for a little bit. And then there's this one character,
right?
The butler.
Yes, yes.
Like I believe you would describe him as cringy. Now the character is like
the portrayal. Yeah.
Oh my, the portrayal. Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you said that because the actor's doing what he's got to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, my daughter was like, "Why is he like that?" Over and over. Like she was upset by it, but also she found it just ridiculous, like that kind of thing.
It's interesting to hear from like such a young perspective. I'm sure that's like a real culture shock, and I can only imagine to see through her eyes to see that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
It made the experience better for me, for her to be there, and what was and what is, and what could be, whatever, that whole thing. But we watched the movie, and he never gets any better. Like, that character is terrible. And the movie itself, though, was just fine. Like, it's a movie from that time period about a simple enough story. The updated version, the 85 version with Richard Pryor, they had a lot of misses, because it's Richard Pryor and John Candy. Like, so this should have been like a bigger thing than it was. But even with that, it's still Richard Pryor and John Candy. So it was super enjoyable for me. And like I said, it came out in 1985. So it may have been my introduction to Richard Pryor. And it wouldn't have been until much later that, I would really find out about Richard Pryor.
Right.
This wasn't a bad start.
In my childhood, this was a huge movie for me. Pretty much consisted of Brewsters Millions and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The superpowers of those two heroes in those movies, the ultimate goal in all my dreams. Anytime I went to bed, I had major dreams after I'd seen like Brewsters Millions again on TV. My small little black and white TV that I was raised on as a kid. Yeah,
I didn't know this movie was that high up for you. That's great.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge part of my childhood.
I knew you liked it a lot. We talked about that, but I didn't know it was that high up.
Oh, no, it's a big one for me. It's a 10-year-old kid's dream.
Right.
You and I have talked about how much I love the movie Moving.
Yes.
And we've talked a lot. Yeah, I've hold up the wrong Vanguard. That was so funny. Just while we're on the subject of moving, the security guard that he buys, that's one of the movers from Moving. Do you remember that?
No,
I'll stump
but that's
a mud
great.
hole in your ass, poo butt.
No, I do not remember the
Yeah,
kid,
it was
but
like him. He's the tall, bald guy. And then I want to say like King Kong Bundy, the professional wrestler from when I was a kid, was the other mover. I don't know.
Vaguely familiar.
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
Vaguely,
I remember the girl.
This
from
is
Clueless
the most
was in it.
memorable part for me. I'm holding up the
I haven't seen
finger
the
right
movie
now.
in years, and now I'm dying to see it. Now that I'm talking about it loud.
Same.
But Pryor and Candy, for that part, were huge amounts of my childhood for sure. To go to bed every night and think, oh my God, what would I do with all that money, or how would I try to spend all that money? Yeah, that was a kid's like dream, man, for real. Yeah, it was huge to me. The 1945 version, you were mentioning, some of the more shocking moments of the movie. The scene where Brewster finds out that he's won $1 million, which back then was huge, and so he's basically doing the Oprah thing where there's I don't know, maybe 7 people in the room, okay, and it's all his friends and then Jackson, the butler, and so he's basically doing these. He's like, you get a car and you get a car.
It must be true. I'm a millionaire. Peggy, I'm a millionaire. Look at the card. It's engraved. Oh, no, wait a minute. You're all in this, We're going to stick together. Hecky, I'm going to buy you a fleet of cabs, cover the whole town.
You are?
Sure. And Nopper, you and I are going to open our own brokerage office. Mom, God love you. You'll never have to wash another dish as long as you live. Oh. Jackson, you got a job for life. And Peggy, we're going to form our own corporation and raise our own stock.
At the end of the line, he gets to Jackson and he goes, and you've got a job for life. And I was like, that one hurt like pretty bad to watch.
Oh my God.
And it's like, what's even worse about it is in his heart, he was trying to do the right thing. And Jackson was unfortunately
He was so happy.
Yeah, he found out he was set for life for a job was terrible.
That was an audible eye roll from my daughter. That's how.
That scene really kind of stood out for me, like big time.
So bad. I'm cry laughing right now.
I know. I love it. I know that whole Jackson scene really was very awkward. So let's talk about the 1985 version. I forgot that the baseball field they're playing on has a train track running through it.
Yeah.
I just thought like really sets the tone for how down on his luck of a shitty ball club he's part of, you know, and he's like from rags to riches and that train track going through there. They have to stop at one point, you know.
And I love the fact that like he is playing minor league ball in this really shitty ball club with a train that's going through the outfield. And there's this guy in the stands that's taking pictures, and he thinks that it's a major league ball club that's looking to come and get him. You're like 40 years old.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's over.
Right, yeah.
It's not happening.
Been over.
Yeah, so that's great.
The first guy that he strikes out, you remember Die Hard? FBI guys who come down and they take over control. The one's black and the one's white.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm Agent Johnson. This is Special Agent Johnson.
Oh, how you doing?
No relation.
I'm Dwayne Robinson, LAPD. I'm in charge here.
Not anymore.
He's from Die Hard, but he was the first guy he was striking out. The opening bar fight sequence, man, I love the 80s, dude. Like, you never didn't see a bar fight where like people weren't jumping off the top ropes and chairs are always flying in those old bar sequences. I just love it and miss that. The guy who turns out to be the interior decorator, the nemesis guy, that's Stephen Collins, and he is no longer a working actor because he had a huge sex scandal.
Oh, so well, that's not good.
Yeah, I know, but it's just, I hadn't seen him in anything else since then. So then when I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy. Walter Hill, he's had a very weird career. He wrote the original script for Alien. He did 48 Hours.
That's why the bar scene made me think of 48 Hours. Yeah. That's exactly the movie I thought too. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right.
In a Variety article, Walter Hill said about Pryor that he didn't believe that he was funny unless he took the drugs. And he believed that if he took the drugs, that he would die. Also, he had major money problems, of course, so he had to work and take jobs and make lots of money. So it was difficult, but I liked Richard very much.
You know, I'm a big Eddie fan, Eddie Murphy. And Eddie is, of course, a huge Richard fan. And, you know, Eddie tells this story where he goes up on stage and he is supposed to spend this amount of time, but he is killing. And he's like, I'm not getting off the stage.
Right.
Well, Paul Mooney and I believe John Witherspoon are these two other more experienced guys who were supposed to go on after Eddie. And they're trying to get Eddie off the stage. And Eddie is like, hey, do y'all want me to keep going or do you want to bring Paul Mooney out? And they're like, we want you to keep going. And he's like, well, fuck Paul Mooney. And he keeps going, you know, like this kind of thing. So he just keeps going until he feels like getting off the stage. After it's done, Mooney and Witherspoon are like trying to fight him. They want to fight him.
And Witherspoon was by the bathroom at the Comedy Store. And he said, next time you tell you to get off that stage, you better get off that stage. I say, man, you. He said, you mama too.
Richard gets word of it. Richard calls Eddie, the two comedians in, makes them all sit down.
He made them come to the main room at the Comedy Store the next night and after hours and apologized to me. Richard made them apologize. He was like, hey, you guys are just being mean to that kid because he's a new hot and y'all was jealous and that y'all apologized. And Richard made them apologize. Richard was always so nice.
He was just a big part of my childhood, and it kind of bummed me out to hear that he was struggling through something that I reflect on so warmly. I thought Lynette McKee was awesome. Did you ever see the Cotton Club?
It sounds like I have.
Yeah, it's a Ford Coppola movie. They just put it out on 4K, and I picked it up. iTunes $5 sales that are always running on Tuesdays and Fridays. But yeah, I picked it up.
You
and
got
it's
iTunes sponsorship already?
Sure.
That's great, man.
Just the comedy that was happening between them. Almost in the same vein as Crimson Tide. It was a real will they, won't they, all the way to the end. So I don't know if that's
a tiny bit
comparison.
Different. Yeah, a tiny bit different.
But yeah, one of the major gags for me that I loved the most was the "Don't Vote for Me" platform.
Yes,
none of the above. That for me, like everything that was so rebel about the movie, that was the one that really always stood out to me.
Watching this dude's face when he would get upset about something, I think it's the iceberg thing starts to make him money.
Okay, here it comes. I took Eugene's advice, all right? Admittedly, without you knowing, I used the corporate name. I hope you don't mind. No, I made a couple investments for you.
That's okay.
What did I buy? I bought a commodity thing. I bought an oil well thing.
He just made you $10 million.
$10 million! $10 million, 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 $10 million.
Damn it! I'm right back where I started, damn it!
He's so upset.
Yeah.
And like the things he's doing with his face.
He does the best. Am I the only sane person in the room?
Yes,
Every single time.
Yes. That's what I see when I think of this movie.
Yeah,
like,
same. And same thing with moving. Like,
taking it with
me. Yeah. And so when he goes out and sees that the pool's missing and he's like freaking out, like you can just tell he has lost his ever-loving mind. A lot of critics did not care for this movie.
I saw the
And
same.
it was, I've always had it in my head like, well, of course everyone loves this movie. And then you start doing the research, you're like, well, I guess I see their point, but I don't care because I've always loved the movie.
Exactly,
so.
100%, yeah. I do think it was justified. I think it's a fun story, and there was a few years back talks of making it again.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously people like this story. I'd be perfectly fine with seeing the update. I enjoyed the 85 update for obvious reasons.
Yeah, how would this be remade? I mean, like I guess like Elon Musk would be the dying uncle that wills it over or something.
Yeah,
or something,
I mean, like,
you know?
the number
or
would
a type.
definitely be way more than 300 million.
Yeah,
That's what,
I mean, it'd be definitely, as long as it's not in Bitcoins, I feel it'd be a pretty secure premise for a movie, you know?
Yeah.
Both Pryor and Candy were staples in my viewing experiences in my youth, and as a small kid whose family income wasn't the same as the rest of the kids in my school, getting to watch a comedic genius spend copious amounts of money gave me the best dreams. I would want to recommend this to everybody. May not hold up to other people who are seeing it for the first time. I crack up a lot at the premise and Pryor and Candy for sure. I'm going to start off with 310 to Yuma.
Just you left, Dan. Just you and your boy.
This town's gonna burn! Call them off.
Why should I?
Because you're not all bad.
Yes, I am.
You just remember that your old man walked them way to that station when nobody else would.
Did you see both versions?
Yes.
Are you a Western fan?
No.
Okay, not at all. Gotcha.
So I said this would come up again with themes that I am generally not a fan of.
Submarine movie and Westerns.
And Westerns,
Okay.
That's right.
I can't wait to find out what else you don't like, to be honest with you. But go ahead.
I'll give you a hint. I felt like your choices were an attack on me.
Really?
No, not really. Not an attack, but I felt like they were specific to me.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I'll be honest with you, and don't take this offensively.
Yeah.
You weren't even in my head at all when I thought of these. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
As we discuss this, I'm going to have a set of eyes on the fact that you just told me you thought I was attacking you with my choices.
Yeah.
That's gonna fare into our conversation.
Even like including today's movie. I just put them all
You're
together.
Funny because I see it as me doing you a favor. So
no.
So funny.
I know exactly.
Wow.
We're saying the exact same thing.
Really?
With
I
just
feel like
a different set of
as
words.
The prism that it's going through, it is splitting it up different directions as it's hitting my ears. But that's fine.
Yep.
And
we're just on the different sides of the same sheet of paper.
And it's funny, a wise man recently in the past hour told me, it sounds like we argue the entire time we're talking, when in fact, we're apparently saying the same thing.
Right.
So, anyways. All right. So what were your thoughts on 310 to Yuma?
All right. So I watched the first one.
The first one, the original?
The original.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, you watched that first?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Watched them in order. I enjoyed it.
Man, I appreciate your dedication on that. That's fantastic.
Well, I wanted to maybe sound like I knew what I was talking about. We'll see how far I get. I watched them both. I enjoyed the original. It was, it's old. It's a Western. It's not a me movie, but I was like, yeah, I get it. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so then I go into the new one, and I wasn't disappointed. Like, they brought what I thought they would bring, and they brought a lot.
Yeah.
For maybe, I don't know, the first 75% of the movie, I was kind of unimpressed away from their acting. If it wasn't one of them, I was kind of like, I don't care. But when they were on the screen, it was like, man, that's great. Then it gets to the point where they have to make the run for the train. And oh my God, I was like, this is amazing. This is so freaking good.
Awesome.
And then, of course, when the movie just goes completely dark, and I was like, that was the right decision. I love you for making that choice. I love this so much. So I loved this movie.
Awesome.
Yep,
I love to
it.
hear that. Westerns are not for everyone. Maybe a preconceived notion that they don't make good Westerns anymore. And to sound cool and hip, you have to say old Westerns. Like my favorite happens to be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But I would definitely say, Good, the Bad, the Ugly. And then how Once Upon a Time in the West. Nothing past the 70s, I would say. Like all the great Westerns. But I love this movie so much and deserves to be talked about in the same vein as some of the movies I just mentioned. It's a great introduction to the genre. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons I knew when you were watching it. I was like, I don't think he likes Westerns. It's a great kind of gateway drug for Westerns.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through the gateway, but this was so much fun.
Glad you loved it.
Yeah.
It's based on a story by Elmore Leonard. The movie's Out of Sight, Get Shorty, Jackie Brown.
Gotcha.
Were all based on his books. It was $55 million, and it only made $70 million. So It was not a big hit. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because they only got through the first 75% of the movie. It's that last 25. They're like,
oh man,
this is amazing.
I'm going to politely disagree with you on a lot of accounts on that.
Russell Crowe's second in
command. Ben
command.
Foster.
Holy fuck. That guy's great.
I mean, if you look at his performance in 30 Days a Night, he's a real scene stealer. You know what I mean? It's all eyes on this guy.
Yes. So glad that I said that and you had that in mind. It's Crowe and Bale. But when this guy comes up, I'm like, man, who is he?
He'll do these pauses.
I don't need your cattle. But I will be needing them horses.
So you don't go do nothing foolish.
He's very captivating to watch. And he's like that in all his movies. And
can I say to that point
sure.
Why Crowe is so amazing? So this guy does exactly all the stuff that you just said. Right after they rob the stagecoach, they go to the bar to have a drink.
Here's to the 4 we lost in battle. And here's to the boss, who had to say goodbye to Tommy Darden today. And that's too bad.
Proverbs 13:3. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life. He that opens his lips too wide shall bring on his own destruction.
Amen.
Tommy was weak. Tommy was stupid. Tommy is dead.
And then you see him turn into the devil, like right in front of your face. And I was like, that's fucking great. He doesn't do anything over the top. You just see it happen.
The scene where he gets shot and he locks the guy in the stagecoach and then sets him on fire.
They're going to contention. Let me put him on the 310 to Yuma prison tomorrow. Let me out of here.
Contention is 80 miles back the other way.
We'd have to about kill our horses.
So we'll buy new ones.
Charlie. It's his own fault he got caught. He made a mistake.
You think you could do a better job leading this crew?
Maybe.
You forgot what he done for us.
We're going to contention.
He's got the devil in his eyes in that scene. Yeah, he's a true enemy. You're scared shitless of him, and he's an evil shot.
He's this fucking charismatic guy that'll tell you straight to your face, don't trust me.
Yeah.
And then he'll prove it while you're still like, he's so charismatic.
Yeah,
it's great. I love it.
It's a huge, huge part for me of the entertainment value of this movie. The movie was directed by James Mangold. He did Copland, Girl It Interrupted, Walk the Line, and Logan, and one of your more recent favorites, Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, I loved it.
He set a couple stinkers. He did Identity, Night and Day with Tom Cruise.
Identity the stinker?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You like that movie?
I like that movie.
Okay. Maybe I will give it a second shot.
All right. We both will.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Maybe that's the next screening. We'll see. And he also did The Wolverine.
Gotcha.
Which was not a good movie either. So that opening sequence where we establish how real down on his luck that Dan is. A one-footed man whose oldest son can't stand him. His wife doesn't like him. And his barn gets set on fire. And his son is so sick and tired of his dad being a gentle giant loser who can't keep coming in, not provide for the family, and his son tries to outbrave him. It's just a real gut-wrenching as a parent to watch scene to come into the movie with. It really hits you hard, man.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. I think watching this movie, I knew that we would both have this point of view of this character in this situation, you know.
Yeah.
Both me and Dad's, but yeah, like that's heartbreaking. And then that is obviously so much of his motivation for doing this and like following through.
Right.
Like the things you do to get the respect of the kids, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, to be respected in their eyes.
You're looking at it as an action sequence. He knows he's going to die. He only goes through that shootout to prove to his son that he's not a loser. And I get super emotional going into that sequence. It's hard to watch that.
Yeah, agreed.
I would say as far as father-son movies go, it's top 5 for sure.
I totally agree with you. Action sequence and the gut-wrenching, you know, kind of, I feel like I felt all of that while watching it, which makes the movie that much better.
I love the cast for this movie. Kevin Durant, he played kind of like the evil cop in Fruitful Station. But in 3:10 to Yuma, he's the guy who's playing and singing music to keep Russell Crowe's character up the whole time and annoy the shit out of him.
Okay.
Do you remember that guy? Yeah, man. I cannot think that he is not like a super muscular Elon Musk. Like, I can't tell the two of them apart. Like,
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's... Every single time I see him up on the screen, I'm like, oh my God, it's Elon Musk, but just on steroids. It's crazy.
I see that, and I also see like, man, that dude looks insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he's got these eyes that kind of bulge out a little bit, and you are terrified of him and like every scene he's in. But yeah.
And speaking of Russell Crowe becoming the devil right in front of you, that final scene for this guy, like he just snaps.
No, that's him. He doesn't snap. That's Ben Wade, man. You know what I mean? That's
no. He, this guy that we're talking about gets it from Crowe.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I thought you were implicating that Crowe snapped.
He does. Like he.
Well, that's his character, man.
Well, sure, but I mean, he turns. He like you see the turn from like this just calm guy into throat neck stabby guy.
He's just a sleeping dog, man. I mean, he is a murderer.
Sure.
I mean, he's the best.
Yeah.
Killer. And you know, you knew when he was playing with that fork
that it was going to come up later, right?
Yeah, you knew. And that guy was pissing him off. Seeing Peter Fonda come out of nowhere was amazing for me. I was like, holy shit. And he's gruff and hard as nails, and I loved him, man. It was great seeing him.
I just spaced. I'm sorry.
Peter Fonda was the Pinkerton, the old guy. The guy who hated Ben Wade. He gets shot in the stomach and survives.
Sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So that's Easy Rider.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay. Well, I will say it is a very landmark film. It changed the tide of independent cinema. It was independently funded. It was directed by Hopper, stars Jack Nicholson and Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, and they're basically just riding some dope-ass motorcycles across the country and smoking weed and being hippies and bikers, and it's all shot like super on the low and cheap, and it changed the tide of how movies were after it. I mean, it's a very important film. So
see, that's the reason I'm here. I help you to get those things out. That wouldn't have come out.
No, well, none of this. I mean, if I'm talking to myself, I'm going to sound like a weirdo, and I'm not going to ask myself questions.
Well,
so
some other guys like, Peter Fonda, and you keep going.
I got it. Okay,
you know?
Okay, yes. Well, okay. Thanks for putting the brakes on for a second.
There you go.
Okay, awesome.
So I'm patting myself on the back.
No, you should. He dies pretty violently. I mean, like, no one's safe in this movie. You know, when Alan Tudyk dies, I was like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming.
No one is safe.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, you can't emphasize that enough.
Luke Wilson with those dirty teeth and stuff, man. And he's like electrocuting and torturing people and stuff. Yeah, man, it's the West, dude. It's some badass hombres, man. I love it for that. I do want to talk about the dinner scene. One of the things I wanted to highlight was what a master storyteller that James Mangold is. Tensions are at a peak. They got a murderer sitting at a family table. It's nighttime, and they could be attacked by Ben Wade's posse at any moment. Alice, who is Dan's wife, is furious. Her house is being burdened with a felon and his captors. Mangold and his masterful blocking is able to connect two completely opposite personalities visually in a small space of time. We start the scene with Ben and his devious smile staring down Dan, who is not pleased at opposite ends of the table. Mangold interrupts both of their medium shots. So he has Alice's arm breaking the frame and delivering food to the table. This is Alice's visual separating of the two people, Ben and Dan. Ben's frame interrupt has food in the frame and Dan's doesn't. This makes Ben's composition more inviting. Ben starts plowing rudely through his food before Grace is even said, and Mangold takes a foreground background shot of Alice and Ben as Alice looks on with disgust at the animals sitting at her table. The youngest son, who quickly establishes that he hates Ben, says,
"We always wait to say grace.
We don't presume to teach other people manners.
Aren't we supposed to say grace for murderers too?
Grace is for everyone, dear.
Then why don't we say it?"
That's how Mangold starts shifting the title. He takes another foreground background shot of Alice and Ben, both snickering. This is when Alice says, "Grace is for everyone, dear." Instead of connecting the two in the frame, disagreeing, he's connecting them in sync. They're getting along. Then we have a series of shots and some dialogue in which Ben mocks religion and upsets everyone at the table, including Alice, who has strong roots in the act of prayer. And she's upset Ben isn't familiar with it, along with the youngest son trying to put Ben in his place.
If my pa wants to, he can shoot you dead. He can shoot a jackrabbit at 50 yards.
Well, shooting an animal's a lot different than shooting a man, son.
No, it isn't. Not my opinion. We could ask Byron here. Now, Byron, he's killed dozens of people. Men and women and children, minors, Apache.
I was so taken, didn't deserve what it got.
Every way of man is right in his own eyes, Byron. The Lord ponders the heart. Proverbs 21.
The quoting of the Bible verse, that's what impresses Alice. For the first time, he switches the angle, but it's now a foreground background shot where Alice is in the background in focus and Ben's in the foreground. And that's all done in less than 20 seconds. And he's able to, just by really blocking out the scene and done with reactions and done with great acting, and you get these great story arcs where you get, okay, well, how would I know that Dan's a great shot at the end of the shootout sequence? Unless I get this quick story from the son about he's a war hero and he was a great marksman. You see more taunting between Peter Fonda and Russell Crowe, and you see how he's able to win people over. The oldest son hates his dad, but is now intrigued with Russell Crowe's character. That scene is just balls to the wall. Like, it's as action-packed, honestly, as the rest of the last 20 minutes. Mangold is the same director who's going to be doing the new Indiana Jones movie, and I thought he did a great job with 3:10 to Yuma. So.
Agreed, and that scene was so powerful. It was, to me, like just two lions going up against each other, like, and one of them saying, "This is my place, respect my place." You know, that you really felt it. Everything that you just said that went into making that scene happen really helped to make you feel like you were in there and you could feel the tension.
It's fantastic because that dinner sequence ends on Ben Wade taunting Dan. And he's like, "Hey, can you cut up my steak?" So he has to act almost as his servant and come over and cut his steak for him.
Oh, why, thank you, Dan. That would be pleasant and kind of you. Much appreciated. You can cut that up for me. Oh, can you cut the fat off there? I don't particularly like the fat at all. You just... And the gristle. I don't like the gristle.
They're just staring each other down at opposite ends of the table again. He's like, "Hey, how'd you get that hitch in your step?" He's taunting him. He finally know how bad war was for Dan. And you can see there's this slight pause, and we can't tell if he's finally going to tell the story or we're going to hear about the horrors of how his fucking foot got shot in this war that he survived. And then out of nowhere, that's when the first gunshot rings out and you see Dan jump a mile high, and you jump a mile high too. And it's great because in its own way, in an audio sense, Mangold's told the story of what war has done to Dan's character without him even having to answer, which is what you were waiting for. That was what the pause was for. You were waiting for this story you've been hearing about the whole movie, and it's answered in his fear of gunshots.
Sure.
So it's a fucking amazing scene.
Yeah.
5 minutes of this movie.
Well, see, that goes into like the 25% that I like.
Gotcha. A lot of Westerns, their storytelling is based on pacing. Not a lot of shit was happening on back then, you know?
Right.
So sometimes you're going horseback riding, and you're not going to get to the destination any quicker. So,
I did think that watching the movie, like, this is just because there's nothing else to do.
I'll dig a little deep, and maybe I can try to hit you up with another Western that you would enjoy. But I'm glad you enjoyed this one. This is a perfect example of a justified remake. Came out 50 years after its predecessor, in which the times and our culture as people had changed drastically, especially theatrically. I've cried more than once during the many screenings of this movie. The down-on-his-luck father trying to prove his worth to his son has really resonated with me, especially especially in the past 9 years. I will always say that this is a perfect gateway Western for people who are not fans of the genre. It's a 90% tough-as-nails Western and 10% over-the-top action film. So if you need the occasional Fast and Furious explosions, this movie has a sprinkling along with a gritty story arc that proves just how lawless and out of control the West truly was.
What I'm about to propose to you is both highly lucrative and highly dangerous.
You want to knock over a casino? You gotta be nuts. Ocean's 11 is the coolest. Pure fun. It's contagious. 2 thumbs up.
We're just supposed to walk out of there with $150 million in cash.
Exactly. It's one of the year's 10 best. You're either in or you're out. Right now. Ocean's 11. Rated PG-13. Now playing.
1960, Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
I just watched it this morning. It was the last one I had to watch because I was very familiar with the new one, loved it when it came out, all that stuff. Watched the old one to compare, and I was like, no, the other one is better. Watching this one, this looked a lot like there was this 4 or 5 guys that were like, let's do a movie, you know, and they just went out there and it was like, you know,
this
like
is the original Girls Gone Wild. This is a party group,
right,
being recorded,
right.
Yeah.
That's all it was, and that's what it felt like. And then the music told you how to feel, which I don't like. Versus, it's like the music was telling you, this is what's happening,
right.
And
that's a sign of the times for sure.
Sure,
people
right.
wanted to be told how to feel,
right? And I totally felt that and accepted that for what it was.
You know, this is the generation of laugh tracks.
Right.
They want to be told.
Got through that. It was fine. It was what it was. You know what I'm saying? And I am younger, so maybe to someone who was older and the Rat Pack was the Rat Pack to them, maybe this was more impactful. But for me, the updated Ocean's 11 was just so much better. I was watching the old one, and Sammy Davis's character was fine. And then I was thinking about Don Cheadle's character and how they chose deaf over blind and that whole thing. And I was like, I really like the decision to make those kinds of changes.
Yeah.
But the new one as a whole, like I loved the casting. Clooney is a great Danny Ocean. The writing, the pace of the movie was fun. There's always the next thing coming. I loved it.
Talking about pacing, in the beginning of the movie, he introduces all the characters, and they're doing the introduction of Linus, who's the guy who's a nervous Nelly and sweating all the time and wears the beanie. They take a shot of him, and he's getting kind of rolled up in a dog leash. You know, they're establishing that this guy is a nerd and a klutz, and they do that by talking about his character, but then going into that scene. Since Soderbergh never slows down on this movie at all, you realize that shot is like power zoomed in, and it power zooms out to now Brad Pitt and Clooney talking about the next character that they're getting ready to employ. It shows you that Soderbergh could really just keep going and connect scenes really well without slowing down. And I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I loved watching it again and noticing that
so
type
good.
of stuff.
Yeah, I was confused by your tone for a second because you were like, never slows down. And I was like, wait, are you saying that negative? Oh, good.
It is a fun ride of a movie, man. And when you recommend it, I was like, man, I feel like I've seen that movie a couple times and I feel like I've got it. But then once you let it relax and you haven't seen the movie in a couple of years and you come back and revisit, you're like, this is a great, fun movie.
It's so much fun. Right.
Yeah, you can't fault it for anything. It'll put you in a great mood. It's a fantastic movie. I love it.
I don't hate any of the characters. Like, none of them. I love every single one of them. They're great.
Yeah. Let's touch base on the original. Sinatra, he was supposed to play John McClane from Die Hard.
Could you see there's like, I think disgust was on my face for a second. No, I don't.
Disgust? No. The microphone blocked the disgust.
No, I didn't know that.
One of his more recognizable ones that he's known for is called The Detective. And it's based on a book by Roderick Thorpe. The sequel to The Detective was the story that Die Hard was based on. Legal default rights. Frank Sinatra still owned the rights to that character, so they had to offer the yippee-ki-yay motherfucker role to Frank Sinatra at 70. He did decline, obviously, but I thought that was...
Or not good for him.
I would have loved to have seen that version. Right? Just as like, I would have loved to have seen that remake, to be honest with you, now that we're talking about that. Let's talk about the remake, 2001. It had a budget of $85 million. It ended up making $450 million.
That sounds right.
An enormous hit.
Yeah.
Everyone on the cast took a major pay cut and then accepted some of the back end money.
I believe I read this.
So that pretty good deal with $450
million.
million.
At a time when Julia Roberts was like a 20 film.
20
girl,
million.
right?
Yeah. Julia Roberts got the introducing credit, and that's how she was able to take a lower pay amount, because she was, I believe, the highest payest actress at the time for 20 million.
Gotcha.
So, did you hear about the issues with Don Cheadle?
I did.
He's not credited in the movie.
Yeah.
At the time, he had just come off Traffic with Soderbergh,
which was great.
He was becoming a huge name at the time. He was on a pretty good streak, and he felt like he should be put above the title. With Clooney and Pitt and Damon, I guess him and Warner didn't see eye to eye, and he's like, well, fuck it, take my name off, and so he's not credited. And then he got his name where he wanted it, above the title for the sequels.
Of course.
What did you think of the sequels, by the way?
I thought they were all fun, all three of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
all three of them. Cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't like them as much as the first one. I need to revisit the second one, but I remember there was a streak of burglary movies where the main way of hacking into the laser system was knowing some kind of like stretches and some kind of body yoga. Because I remember like
Catherine Zeta-Jones,
from Entrapment, and then I believe Vincent Cassel from the second one. He was like some kind of French.
Sure, right. Lamarck. That's right.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a couple years since I've seen it, but I remember I was like, are we doing another one of these like calisthenic like bank robberies?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a streak of them going on in Hollywood right now.
I had fun with those.
Yeah.
I do get what you're saying, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a big deal. There's nothing. So we do have to talk about Don Cheadle's accent.
Yeah, we're in deep shit. That poxy demo crew haven't used the coaxial to back the main line, have they? They've only nosed up the mainframe couplet, nosed it right up.
Do you understand any of this?
I'll explain later.
He is fully aware that it sucked. He wanted to change it for the second one and third one. I guess his management talked him out, like, no, you got to stick with it. You got to stick this out. But yeah, he was crucified for that accent, man. It was pretty fucking terrible.
That's terrible because I, like I said about the original being half blind,
right?
Don Cheadle being half deaf. I also liked the fact that he went for this ridiculous accent.
Oh, he swung for it. I mean, he went all in. Some of the Cockney accent, it's atrocious.
Oh, I loved it. But not in a good way. Like, oh, this is so bad.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah. It's cringeworthy for sure. One of the things I love about the movie is just the really super fast dialogue.
Now, they tell me that I paid my debt to society.
Funny, I never got a check.
Just these like interrupting lines and how he answers. You were talking about Andy Garcia when he comes in and...
Danny was just about
I just stopped by to say hi to Tess for old time's sake.
Stay and have a drink.
You can't.
Danny knows that Tess is going to say no, so he answers for her, speaking about himself in the third person. All that shit was great. And just all the scenes with Tess, instead of being like a hardly written character for the original that is getting cheated on by a womanizing Frank Sinatra. Yeah, of course, she's like super intelligent and an art dealer. And...
Can I just say Frank Sinatra? This feels wrong to say because I know like what Frank Sinatra is. Did you love him? Clooney was so much... I enjoyed Clooney as Ocean so much
I'm not sure
better.
Frank Sinatra as an actor was...
Got it.
Yeah, no,
But
I don't think he was revered.
He didn't even come across as like this super cool guy to me, like in the way that like Clooney does. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say cool has definitely changed in the decades. I love Out of Sight. Do you like that movie, by the way?
I don't even remember.
Oh, with Don Cheadle, George Clooney, Ving Rhames, Jennifer Lopez.
It sounds familiar.
Dude, I can't recommend it enough.
All right.
That's a must recommendation movie.
I feel like I've seen it.
And it's Don Cheadle at his best.
At his best?
Absolutely.
All right.
Name your favorite Don Cheadle performance.
I don't know. Like, he's good in everything. So, like, when you say his best, that says a lot.
I feel like he's taken a back seat lately.
Because of the Marvel stuff?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
He's been such a standout character. Like, again, if you watch Out of Sight, you'll be like, geez, how is this guy not doing everything? And then now he's like a sidekick. I don't know. It was a rough transition.
I guess.
He's good.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's good to see him in that franchise doing what he's doing. His role could definitely be bigger. He does show up in the Disney series. Are you watching Falcon? And
I am.
Winter
Yeah,
Soldier?
my kid and I are. Yeah.
So, yeah, he does show up in that. So he's got a role that's kind of cemented. I don't know. I guess that is good enough for right now.
Would you say this is like the most Vegas movie of all time?
Well, I love The Hangover.
I was going to say, yeah, Hangover or Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Fear and Loathing.
Yeah,
Casino.
Yeah. So there's a couple like really good ones.
Casino might challenge it, but
well, watching the original Ocean's 11, you see like how different it is. Like, yeah, you could like they were. I think at one point they were on the Strip, and you could still see for like miles during the daytime.
Yeah.
Versus like now, like it's come so far.
Their credit sequence is their names on those like replaceable lettered with 6 billion served McDonald's changeable letter things or whatever they're called. That's probably the worst description of those things of all time. But anyways, your local grocery store
I can see it.
whatever.
I get
I'm
it.
rambling.
Yeah.
Just had their names for the credits, and I was like, oh my god, how much did that cost? $20? That is not how we do credit sequences nowadays. That was in front of a casino too. So the fact that the casino had that sign out front is compared to what you see in Ocean's 11. It's what an evolution for sure. It's nuts. The scene where the electric pulse goes off, Don Cheadle holds his nuts.
When Cheadle like protects himself from the
that's the
blood,
best.
I fucking lose it every time. Like that's
dude,
so great.
It's great.
Me.
He just kind of crunches up. Like that's gonna help.
Pitt and Clooney they're so good together.
Yeah.
Just their back and forth feels like they're friends, and like this is how we talk, you know.
Damon was still kind of a fresh face at the time, so he didn't need to be the lead guy. Like he's gone on to be in a lot of other movies, and just the fact that you could tell everyone got along. It looked like a great party, and you as the audience get to be part of that. Ultimately, I think for a movie that has some pretty good yanks of the rug out from underneath you, I think it's pretty fun in that aspect. And you love the ending, and it's cool. And
absolutely.
You're cheering for everyone. It's awesome. It's a blast.
You're a criminal by the end of the movie. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. A 40-year-old misogynistic ho-hum movie with a cool premise is a prime candidate for being remade. And luckily, we have Soderbergh to thank for bringing that to fruition. 2001's Ocean's 11 pulled off an impossible mission in many ways. It cast all of Hollywood's A-listers at a fraction of their usual salaries and then shot a movie mocking the security measures of Las Vegas and the actual casinos they use as the punchlines in the film. A movie on this level may never be made again.
The possessed must be cleansed.
There was something in the woods.
What are you doing?
Mia, put the gun down.
You are all going to die tonight.
Something evil is attached to Mia's soul. We're gonna have to kill her. This is insane. It's 3 ways. A live burial. Dismemberment. Purification by fire.
Why are you hurting me?
You're not her.
Evil Dead. Rated R. In theaters Friday.
Was this your first time seeing this movie?
Maybe I had seen clips of it before, but I was watching it and it wasn't like super familiar.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah. And again, I watched both. So the answer is yes to both.
And are you a fan of horror movies?
A casual fan.
Okay. How do you handle gore?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
To a point. I'm fine with it. It's just like...
Bearing in mind, you probably don't want to ruin your teddy bear image that you've been working so hard for so many years.
Have I? Is that what I am now?
Yeah. I'm sure it comes naturally now, but yes.
Copy that, all right?
Yeah. It's your branding.
Every time I come here, I learn something about myself.
We all do.
Right. Yeah.
Skittles.
That's great. Relax. So, gore.
Yeah.
I handle it fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll revisit that in the next couple of seconds.
Right.
And had you seen the original before?
No.
Okay. Did you watch the original, or did you watch Evil Dead 2?
The original, I believe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that?
It was fine.
Yeah.
Like, I understood it to be what it was for when it was made, you know?
Have you ever seen Evil Dead 2?
No.
Okay. I did watch the original, but I watched the second one, and I would say the remake that we're talking about now, or 2013, has a lot of elements of Evil Dead 2. I will be comparing the remake to both the original and Evil Dead 2. And I would say to you, I would highly recommend Evil Dead 2. Every time I say something to you, I feel like I'm putting so much emphasis on how important these certain movies are. And I don't want you to feel like I'm Boy Who Cried Wolf, but I will tell you once again, Evil Dead 2 is an important movie.
Can I tell you to that point that you're making? I did want to bring this up.
Go ahead.
So I had my 3 movies, right? And I was like, here we go. And so you gave me your list, and then I watched your movies, and I was like, man, fuck. These are all like amazing. Like, you gotta watch these kind of movies.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I felt about the 3. Like, and,
hey, why didn't you lead off with that?
I don't know, man. We were talking about Brewsters Millions.
Oh no!
And
When I say how you doing,
yeah,
give a quick response and then go into how much you appreciate the movies I'm recommending immediately.
You want to like record it right now and just stitch it together? No, that doesn't. Okay.
We're not going to memento this shit.
But yeah, that's how I felt about your 3 movies. And my 3, I was like, these are just like good movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I was thankful to revisit them.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I needed a small little push with Ocean's 11.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking loved it. It was so much fun.
Right.
I love it. I'm so glad you made me pick up the phone for it. It's phone call again.
Awesome.
You know, I loved it. That makes me super happy that you liked the 3 choices I recommended.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you watched the original, but definitely check out Evil Dead 2.
All right.
It is the most perfect combination of Three Stooges, copious amounts of like blood, super zany comedy, and it's all done on a shoestring budget, and it's fantastic.
So I didn't see 2, but I did see Evil Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you to that point that I had to pause the movie at one point, go to Google and type in, is Evil Dead supposed to be funny?
Gotcha. Right.
And there's, I guess, debate about it. But I definitely watched it and could feel the comedy in this movie. And I guess it gets turned up in the next one.
Sam Raimi, who did the Evil Dead trilogy, because there's a third one, Army of Darkness. It's not as violent as Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is just a perfect marriage of gore and comedy.
Gotcha.
And it's super fun. One of the first movies that K&B Effects did, K&B is Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, and Howard Berger. Bruce Campbell, obviously carried over from the first one. Sam Raimi literally beats the living snot out of him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sequence at the beginning of the movie where they somehow kind of like tie him to some kind of device that's spinning, but they have it suspended so that it's traveling 1,000 miles per hour through the forest, and so it just spins him 360, and he is getting hit by every tree branch, and he's getting the living shit kicked out of him. Cowboys of filmmaking, man. These guys out doing like super low budget, but doing as much as they can. Type of creativity. It's fantastic.
I watched the original Evil Dead, and I watched it with my daughter.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. She sat down and we watched it together. And I
Which
was like,
one? Obviously the older one.
The older
Okay,
one.
okay,
yeah.
sorry. Why did I say that?
So we watched it, and right before Ash, how he figures out how to kill everybody, and it's winding down, and it's done, and no, it comes up again, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and like that was the end sequence to the movie. It was so long. That's why I laughed at your question about gore, because Evil Dead 2 now you're saying is even more than that.
Oh, you have no idea how bloody you're about to get. But the funny thing is, it has already established itself as being super, super, super funny, and the gore becomes the funnier aspect of the movie.
Gotcha.
So it's great. You can't take the gore serious at all. And as crazy and effed up as the second one gets, you're just laughing the whole time. Let's talk about the remake. I'm really glad you liked it.
I put the movie on. The opening sequence is the guy and I think it's his daughter, right? So they're going through that, and I had to pause it and like look it up. Am I watching the right movie? Because this is gold right from the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And so I looked it up and I was like, no, this is the right movie. So I turned it back on and it goes through that whole sequence, and then the title pops up, and I was like, this is already better. What I don't, you know, I was like, this wins. You know,
it's a ferocious couple of minutes there at the beginning.
I was
it's
like,
amazing.
whatever happens after this.
Oh, cool.
No, nothing. The old one can't beat this.
Right. That's awesome. I'm really glad you liked it. That makes me very happy, actually. Okay, so right off the bat, let's talk about the budget. It was a lower budget, $17 million, and it ended up grossing about $97 million.
Nice.
The big thing about this, Evil Dead has been talked about as far as a fourth installment. Everyone always wanted Bruce Campbell to come back a fourth time. And honestly, there's never been a movie that's been talked about for longer, for like close to 20 years, I think, where it was like completely dangled in front of the fans' face, like this is going to happen, and then pulled away. Throughout history, I don't think any other movie has had such a back and forth as far as being remade. They ended up making a TV show, which again was really good, and then it got canceled again.
Ash versus Evil Dead.
It's on Showtime, and it was really good and funny, and definitely in the same spirit and vein and comedy and creature effects as the original trilogy. It's fantastic, and it was definitely appreciation card to the fans. But we waited 20 years for any kind of a remake, and so. I think a lot of people were very hesitant going in. It's directed by Fede Alvarez, who did a movie called Don't Breathe. It's the same actress, Jane Levy. Her two friends, one of them's her boyfriend, and they decide to rob a blind man at his house.
Oh, I do remember this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen this movie?
Yes.
It's terrifying. It's good. I'll leave it at that cliffhanger. But so same director. English is not his native language. So they brought Diablo Cody in to do some Americanizing punch-ups on the movie. She is the writer writer of Jennifer's Body, which I absolutely loved. Did
I
you ever see
remember us
that?
talking about
Yeah.
this. Yeah,
Do you like
loved
this?
it, and I was like, eh.
Oh man, that might be a movie I'm gonna have to somehow squeeze into some kind of list to force you to watch because I love that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, she wrote Juno.
Love that one.
Okay,
That's great.
And then she was the writer and I believe the executive producer on a TV show called United States of Terra with Toni Collette.
I was just talking about this
Oh,
show
okay.
with a friend. So yeah,
Cool.
I like.
So
this show.
she's the writer on that show.
That was my intro to Brie Larson.
Oh, there. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I would say there's a lot of character traits that are from the original Evil Dead put into a Yahtzee cup and then shaken up and then spilled out. And so now, character A is now saying character B's dialogue, and character B is now doing the actions of character C. And so they kind of intertwine it a different way. So I thought it was fresh enough. I was so familiar with the comedy aspect of the original trilogy. You can't update comedies. I'm sorry. I don't think you can update comedies. I've seen it fail so many times.
Okay.
I would say updating comedies has a 90% track record of not doing so well.
I don't have anything that comes to mind where I can argue with you, so I'm just going to have to go with it.
I'll just say
the
this.
look on your face.
Well, because, it's... You're damned if you do, damned if you don't like this movie, but I did not care for the Ghostbusters remake.
Oh.
And for example, you can't capture the lightning in the bottle that
You
Ghostbusters was.
misogynist bastard.
It's here we go. Yeah, exactly. I must be the damned, not the band. You can't replicate what Murray and Aykroyd and Hudson and Rick Moranis and Annie Potts, you can't recapture that.
Right.
Remakes like that, I think you can't compare it because comedies don't update that well. So when I went in and saw that opening sequence, I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
Well, I didn't find any of that funny at all. Like, what kind of temperature are we setting here in the room? You find out that he didn't do CGI effects. This is all practical effects.
Gotcha.
And so you see every inch of that on the screen. So when you're watching this, these are all practical effects, and you're like, that is the grossest shit I've ever seen. That bathroom sequence is some next level horror shit.
Yeah.
The scene starts off with a flickering light that's losing electricity, and you hear what sounds like grinding flesh sound effects that maybe someone's cutting into a steak with some bone or something. Then you find out it's a woman cutting her face off because she's possessed. And then she had...
Oh, that gotcha. I'm thinking a different scene.
How could you... That scene...
I thought you were talking about the shower where she's like melting.
Oh, that's terrible too.
Yeah.
And that happened before this.
Right. I watched this movie in two pieces just because of time. So the first half or part of the movie I watched, that was fine. The second half or part I watched, I had come home from work. I had gotten all relaxed. I turned on the movie, and it's the scene where I think it's a box cutter, and she extends the blade fully, licks the blade, and you're like, oh, that's gross. And then, like, the blade just keeps going, and I went, nope. And I had to turn it off. I was like, no, I can't do this right now.
Wow.
So I had to come back to it later.
So how do you handle gore?
I mean, as long as I'm not too relaxed, I think it's fine.
It was affecting you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I give Alvarez all of the credit for that, man. I mean, there's a needle that goes in an eye. There's nail guns. There's arms being severed off and then hanging on by a tendon. And then it's just...
That's right.
It's fucking nonstop. There's a scene at the end where he has to revive his sister. He's got a plastic bag over her head. And that is, for me, pure nightmare fuel.
You will burn, David. You will burn in hell alongside your junkie sister.
She just looks demonic, and she's talking through the bag.
That whole sequence, like, he has to build a defibrillator
to restart her heart.
Yeah, and I was like, why does he know how to do that? Did I miss something? So that part took me out of it a little bit, but I'm with you on the, like, horrific aspects of it.
As far as a remake goes, it going its own direction and still honoring the first one, I thought it was amazing in that aspect.
I thought, again, this goes back to your three being, like, must-watch movies. Like, for someone who is looking for, I want to watch a horror film.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
And I want to talk about the ending. You think the dashing Orlando Bloom ripoff guy is going to be the new Ash. He's wearing the denim shirt. And
how'd you feel about the acting in this? Like, I
Thanks
know it's
for
a horror
asking.
movie.
The lead actress, Jane Levy, she was nothing short of fantastic. I thought she was great. There's a scene towards the end when the Deadite version of her is sticking Jason's machete through the boards because of the wall, and she is getting cut into as she's cramped in this space. It is just a terrifying sequence. And the scene in the car that she's trapped in, and the ending, which I'm going to talk about in a second, she's fantastic in the role. I thought the guy with the long hair and the beard was great. I thought the supporting cast was really good. The two other girls are good. He was so effing bad. He was so bad, dude. What was going on?
I don't know, but yes, I don't understand it.
Shiloh something. He was a stinker, man.
Yeah, like I didn't get it. I didn't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's a good-looking dude. Maybe that's why he got cast. But yeah, his acting was. But yeah, just switching the character up. She's kind of the new Ash. She's the one taking on the reins now. The allegory that she's going to quit drugs and she's going to have to go through hell to go clean. You got to think to yourself, okay, this is an updated version. Why are these dumbass kids going out to this raggedy ass where there's a shit ton of buried cats underneath? Who would ever fucking stay there?
Yeah.
Who would stay there?
Yeah.
And they get trapped there very quickly, so don't get me wrong. But once you find out that she's there to go cold turkey on drugs,
Right.
and that she has escaped before, and
that's all writing, like, you know. So I
thought
think
that
it
was good. I
Yeah,
thought
that
it
was
was
impressive.
a good hook for the new one. The character names: David, Eric, Maya, Olivia, and Natalie. Spell out the word demon.
That's fun.
Do you ever go to a Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights?
Not for a long time.
My favorite haunted house I've ever done, ever in my entire life, is the one that was based on Cabin in the Woods.
So This Is Us house?
That's a great one. Not This Is Us, the Us. Wait, what the hell? But no, did you?
That's a joke.
Jeez, no. Almost fell for that one. Like literally, I had a foot in the pit. Like no,
It was
no. The Us house was fantastic. Oh, dude, did you see?
I heard. No,
oh
I didn't go.
Man, that was such a good one.
My daughter went. She loved it.
Probably my third favorite haunted house. Now you bring that up, I'm glad you did. My first favorite was the one based on Cabin in the Woods. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
Dude, I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, I loved it.
They had the merman and it was spraying blood, and it was awesome. Like it was a great haunted house.
That movie completely caught me off guard.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I didn't know what I was watching, and then it happens, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." So,
yeah, no, I love that movie. But
Yeah.
it's my favorite haunted house. But my second favorite was the Evil Dead remake haunted house.
Gotcha.
Where they had the actual cabin, and it was just obviously sprinklers, but it was underlit with red lights perfectly, so it looked like it was the fountain geyser of blood that was, hell was breaking loose above her in the final sequence. 70 gallons of blood were used on the movie, and 50 of those 70 gallons were used in that final sequence, and that is just like an astronomical amount of blood. But yeah, the haunted house at Universal emulated that like perfectly, and it was a really cool haunted house, man.
There's like this gusher.
When she chainsaws the Deadite at the end of the remake, it is non-stop.
Is that what it is?
Oh my god, that's so awesome.
Yep.
If you're a horror fan, yeah, dude, when she cuts that Deadite in half with a chainsaw, it is a blast to watch.
I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, no, that was serious shit, man.
That's happening.
Arm getting cut off scene, the beating that the character Eric takes. I mean, I've never seen a character take like more of a beating.
I hated him. He was.
What?
Wait, Eric's the blonde with the glasses,
Yeah.
right? It's his fault. The whole movie's his fault.
That's true, dude. That book was wicked looking, man.
Yeah,
Barbed
wicked looking,
wire,
and it kept
trash
saying,
bag around
"Don't
it.
do this, don't do
I know,
this,"
yeah.
and he
I
just
guess
kept doing
You're
it.
so funny. I guess I never even looked at it. I was just like, man, this guy is getting the snot fucking railed at him this entire movie.
And I was like, "It's his own damn fault." The book says, "Don't do this,"
No,
like
it's
1,000
funny. I guess
times.
I hadn't looked at it. Yeah, I guess he had it coming then, and he got it, dude. Holy shit! That close up they take of him pulling that pin out of his.
Yeah. A fun ride. It was
Dude, I'm
great.
so glad you liked it. That makes me so happy. There's just no way to best the originals, but coming through with a practical effects gore fest that gave the right amount of fan service while still being its own movie was, in my opinion, worth the wait. Remake. What do you want to talk about next and last for you?
Batman Begins.
In the beginning, evil had its day.
Sometimes things just go bad.
What chance does Gotham have when the good do nothing?
On June 15th, evil fears the night.
Gotham isn't beyond saving.
Batman Begins. Rated PG-13. In theaters and IMAX, June 15th.
I would go a step further and not even say Batman Begins, but more of the Christopher Nolan Batman.
Okay.
So like the character as a whole.
So, and this is a real dick move on my part.
Oh, great.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. You and I nonstop talk about Nolan all the time.
Mm.
Would you come back and do the Batman trilogy with me as a full podcast?
Hell yeah.
So with that in mind, and I'm not trying to short time you.
Yeah.
Let's discuss this, but let's do a grazing of it.
Oh,
We have a lot
man,
to
you
talk
really
about.
kept this under wraps. I had no idea this curveball was coming. That's
well,
great.
and I still want to talk about a lot of stuff. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things.
All right.
Let's spend some time on it. We've watched Tenet together. We've actually, I think the first time you ever came over for a screening at my previous home theater was for Batman Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight, yeah.
Dark Knight. I don't know why I pluralized it, but but anyways, that's the sequel. But
I believe I was very comfortable that day.
Yeah, gotcha. Copy that. Let's talk about the cast. You got Christian Bale, Liam Neeson, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Katie Holmes and her nipples.
Copy.
So every documentary I'm watching, they're spending hours and hours and hours making sure the suit is more updated and flexible and can move and all this stuff. And the wardrobe guys or girls not checking every single scene that she's in. What's going on?
I don't have the
I know, you don't want to
I
touch
don't
that.
have the answer for that.
well.
Yep. Hey, man, she looked great.
I was to tell you, man. It's whatever. Okay. It's just a weird miss, I thought, on someone's part. I would have fired someone, but that's it. That's just
Sure.
me. This had a budget of $150 million. It ended up grossing $373 million, which is a great return. Nolan hadn't proven himself. So I still feel like this movie has a little bit of the restraints where Warner Brothers was not giving him the full carte blanche freedom that he ended up getting for Dark Knight, his relationship, which recently terminated, unfortunately, over their disagreement of them airing stuff on HBO Max and not in theaters. But yeah, they let him do whatever he want for a very long time, and it stemmed from this movie.
This was one of those movies where he was Batman is Batman. Like, you can't go crazy and rewrite it. Like, this thing exists, this world exists, you have to work in these parameters.
Yeah.
Within reason. This was one of those where he was playing with things where he could within certain parameters. So he was still learning, like you were just saying. I'm fine with it. Like, I enjoy it. You weren't saying that you weren't okay with it.
Maybe to go full on Nolan right out of the gate,
Right.
maybe audiences wouldn't have been ready.
That's why it was fun for me, because you get to go on that journey with him as a director.
The evolution of his control
Right.
and his more singular vision by the second one.
Right.
Back then, Warner Brothers was really struggling. They had canceled Supermans with Nicolas Cage and
Love
some.
that
Yeah, there you go. They had struggled last couple Batman movies, the Danny Ocean version, and some others. I'm sure they were very overprotective of their most prized possession. As far as a course correction for the genre of comic book movies, what's your feelings on what the ripple effect that this movie had on comic book movies?
Oh, wow. The impact is so apparent in that you get like really good actors and you make it a lot more serious than a Danny Ocean person. You know, like you get darker, you change the look, like some real shit happens. I just love the tone that he took and he chose to take with a superhero movie.
You and I believe, agree that this is the gold standard for comic book movies. Movies that have been more comedic in tone and more light and airy in previous outings, and to see what Nolan brought with realism, the people who went after him with some of their Batman versions and how, I don't want to say dark, but more serious in tone. Okay, sometimes dark. The way they portrayed Batman. Marvel, especially after being picked up by Disney, have gone a very fun route. It's fun to watch the Marvel movies. Nothing gets too crazy.
I think
know what
it
I mean?
was Scorsese that said they're a roller coaster.
They
ride,
are,
you know?
and,
Right. And I get the
we can
point he
definitely
was
talk
making.
about my feelings on that statement sometime. But
Gotcha.
'cause that's a bigger conversation for sure.
Got it.
A psychotic killer like the Joker, Dark Knight.
So good.
I don't think we would see someone who cuts holes in their face, does the things that he does. I don't want to speak for Marvel, and maybe they'll get a little darker in some other movies, but I don't think we'd see a movie like The Joker. I don't think in a Marvel movie. There's definitely a split in as far as tone, DC
A
and
character
Marvel.
like the Joker.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Oh, yes, of course.
Okay.
Besides legal rights
Right.
and how that'll never happen, except for fan movies. Tone and the direction that Nolan took this movie, I thought had a huge ripple effect. Nolan picks the best fucking locations. Like, dude, that scene where he's doing like he's training and they're skimming over some of these like mountain cap, snow caps. What the fuck? I'm hungry. I want movie snacks. But the snow capped mountains. Even like Interstellar had some of those icy locations. He's just really good at finding locations, man.
The choice of Chicago, really enjoyed the city as, you know, its own character.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with Blade Runner, as I can totally relate to, which is one of the reasons Rutger Hauer got hired to play one of the roles in the movie.
Gotcha.
But he kept making people on set watch Blade Runner for inspiration. So when you would look at some of the more cityscape shots of Gotham, they have a very Blade Runner, Los Angeles look that Blade Runner had. So it has the same look.
And I would like to say again that I have not seen Blade Runner, but I've seen enough.
Wait, okay, hold on, stop, hold on. Wait.
We said that this came up in the last one.
No, but the last one came up was the 2049.
I haven't seen either one.
Oh,
yeah.
Bro.
No, neither one.
Yeah, again, you didn't mention that on the last one.
I think we talked about that. Did we not?
I don't think so.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But I do know.
No,
I'm sorry.
What I said last time,
yeah.
And the offer is still there. I would love to change that for you.
Here's what actually happened. I have started watching Blade Runner. I've never finished watching Blade Runner. I can get the reference.
You don't like dialogue sometimes.
That's not true. That's not true
We've
at
had
all.
This talk.
The Hunt for Crimson Tide.
The Hunt for Crimson Tide. It's the crossover the audiences wanted.
Crimson Tide was a ton of dialogue. It's the way it's done.
I'd love to introduce you to it sometime.
All right.
So, okay. This movie was shot by Wally Pfister. He ended up shooting Dark Knight. Nolan switched to Hoyt von Hoytman, who did, I believe, Dunkirk and Tenet, but he used to work pretty much only with Wally Pfister, and I love the look of this movie. Each of the three movies actually had a very specific color tone and would change based on which movie you're watching at the time.
I agree with that, and it goes back to like the different points, the arc of Batman, so it would make sense that they would look a little bit different.
Casting Freeman and Michael Caine is fantastic casting. The reason I think that is because you're talking about a guy who has to keep so many secrets. He's a bazillionaire, so everyone should be in on his business. And he's hiding weapons grade shit, a floor below and an entire floor below. And yeah, he's got to have people he can trust. And everyone loves a Michael Caine and a Morgan Freeman.
Of course.
The comedy's great too. Some of the banter between him and Michael Caine.
Well, it's a good thing I left everything to you then.
Quite so, sir. And you can borrow the rolls if you like. Just bring it back with a full tank.
And then he's talking to Morgan Freeman.
So what do you think?
Does it come in black?
Don't get too bogged down without a little let up of great comedy. The one nitpick I was going to bring up, the scene where Falcone gets tied to the light. You and I work in a TV studio. You know damn fucking well that if a light of that size and power was to ever have someone attached to them, they would be crispy bacon within moments.
Right. Like I'm reliving the whole movie in my head right now, like flashing scenes. Bale is so perfect.
Yeah, I do too.
You cast American Psycho as Batman. That's perfect to me.
I think the whole entire cast is great, and I would say that for all three movies too. I think everyone is where they're supposed to be.
Who saw Heath Ledger coming? I didn't see that coming. Not like that.
He had Monsters Ball under his belt, but other than that, I was like, this guy is still proving himself to me because he's the 10 Things I Hate About You guy. And he's the Knight's Tale guy.
Knight's
I'm
Tale
like, who is this dude? And now he's trying to be serious. Like,
and he kills it.
And this dude's coming after Jack Nicholson, and everyone loved Nicholson's performance. You can't fucking top that. And then you see Heath Ledger's, and then you're like, well, no one can ever top that. I would say the Joaquin Phoenix version is fantastic and has a lot of its own merits. So
that was amazing. I would make those two characters different. They wouldn't be the same Joker to me. But yeah, they're both fantastic.
If we have to have nonstop year after year after year after year comic books coming out, I feel they should all be more on the aligned caliber of this movie. This won't be the last time we see Batman movie, but hopefully it left its mark and influence on the genre, and fingers crossed for the future when Warner Brothers gets their act together and hires more auteur directors with a clear, singular vision who want to tell unique stories we haven't seen before in a genre that by design is going to be flooded with rinse and repeat content. So we're going to move on to the girl with the dragon tattoo.
All right.
I need a research assistant.
I know an excellent one, but she's different.
In what way?
In every way. She's had a rough life. Can we not make it any rougher?
Elizabeth, I want you to help me catch a killer of women.
They say I'm insane.
Why would you want to know about such an awful murder?
It interests me.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Rated R. In theaters everywhere December 21st.
Watching him this time, what did you think?
Watched the first one.
By first one, you mean
2009.
The original Swedish version. This is a remake of a Swedish version that only came out 2 years prior.
Right, which was so that was a fun detail. And then the Swedish version, I enjoyed. I liked it.
Yeah.
Even
and sorry to put a pause on you.
Yeah.
You're not a fan of subtitles.
Correct. Which was my very next point was, even with the subtitles, I was like, nope, this one's good.
So had I waited 5 more seconds, you would have answered my question. And I just interrupt you for just being a rude prick.
No.
Okay.
You just showed that we're friends and
Gotcha.
you know me.
And we're arguing all the time. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then I watched the second one.
Okay.
It didn't do it for me.
Wow.
Yep.
Hot take.
Yep. I was
Hot
like,
take. And you are a Fincher fan.
yes, I am. And I kept watching and I kept wanting to have like a moment like in 3:10 to Yuma where I was like, oh, this movie's fine. It's fun. And then it turns up. I never got that
Copy
moment
that.
for me. It just felt like this remake of this other movie. And I can tell you one very specific
for
reason
it.
that I didn't like it as much. He changed Lisbeth's character from
Yes.
the original. In the Swedish version, she was much more of a badass and much more in control. It felt like she made more decisions. And in the second one, it felt like things were happening to her in places where the first one, where she made things happen and she made a decision to interject herself into this place.
The biggest compliment I can say about both of the movies being out is that for me, I get more out of the Swedish version when I watch the American version, and then when I watch which one did I just say? Fuck, I'm so...
You get more out of the Swedish when you watch the
I
American.
get more out of this. I cannot believe I just forgot. Mentally fell asleep within a second. Ridiculous timing. Okay.
In there.
I'm there currently.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get more out of watching the Swedish version after I've seen it. Fuck it. Whatever. I still can't say it. No, I'm going to try for it one more time.
This is so much better in person.
I get more out of the American version after of seeing the Swedish version, which I saw first. And then going back and watching the Swedish version. Holy balls, this was a long trip to get here. After seeing the American version, I have gone back and seen the Swedish version. And I get more out of the Swedish version now that I understand the American version.
I see.
So I would say these movies, for me, existing in the same world that I do, which I wouldn't recommend to anyone right now, but I would say these movies help me out with each other.
Sure.
And I that's probably the biggest compliment I can give to the two films.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I thought...
Sorry about that.
No, that was great. No, I'm so... Like I said, I'm so glad I was here to see this. It was much better to see.
Wow. Yeah, that was bad.
The second one wasn't all bad. I will say the story was easier to follow, it felt like. It was much more palatable than the first one, but I feel like that still didn't take away from the first one, which is, I kind of goes back to your point that they work together. I just really liked the girl in the Swedish version.
So, you know what? I can't argue with you, although you're going to claim me of it, because I love the Swedish version a lot, as a matter of fact. I would say 80% are pretty much in line with each other. You can see stuff in each movie where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was pretty much right on par with what I saw in the other version.
Right.
But then there's 20% where Fincher went a different direction. And I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you. Great for audio purposes. There's a fucking ice cream truck.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. Yeah. So you hear creepy clown music in the background. That's what that is. So that's great. Anyways, there's 20% where the movies kind of went their own direction. And I love the 20% different direction that the Swedish version went. And I love the 20% that Fincher went. Sorry to interrupt you on that. On your
No, that's great. I won't say that I didn't love. I will say that I didn't love it.
Man,
Fincher's version. It felt wrong. It's almost all these movies have like these huge casts that we've talked about.
Yes.
And this one again has this big cast.
Right.
And I just felt like I don't like any of them. Maybe they were too specific. Like Daniel Craig is Bond to me, even though I knew him before he was Bond. Robin Wright is Mrs. Underwood, even though I know her from other stuff. Like, so she felt wrong. And then she has an accent in this movie, I think.
I believe so, yeah. A couple of them took on Swedish accents.
Yeah, and I hated
not sure
it.
Of that. Yeah.
I didn't hate it, but I really liked the other one.
See, I will tell you again, and I can't disagree with what you're saying. It's just that I don't agree with what you're saying.
I'm confused.
Yeah. Okay. So the cast in the Swedish version was great. Noomi Rapace's interpretation of Lisbeth is fantastic. And it's, from what I've read, she's very close in body shape and in body language. to the character in the books. Yes.
Which I didn't mention, but I did read the book way back when.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't remember a ton of details.
Gotcha.
What I remember is that I really liked the book, and I remember being really excited to see the movie. And so that may be informing my preference of the Swedish version.
See, so I can't read, and I have to go by what I saw up on the screen. Again, I loved Numi's interpretation. I thought it was fantastic, and I definitely felt for her, and her take on some very hard to watch scenes is just as brutal to watch, in my opinion, as Rooney Mara's. But I loved the tweak that Fincher did with the Lisbeth Salander character, their more ragged take on her. So I did prefer the American remake only slightly. I'm talking, we're splitting hairs here. I'm recommending both films, obviously. The term, it's easy to stand on the shoulder of giants is used a lot.
Sure.
Numi set such a high bar with her interpretation, and the creepy guy who does the torturing plays Martin, I believe. Both actors are both great. Again, I'm splitting hairs here. The American version just had a more tightened up storyline. I suspected everyone. I even suspected Christopher Plummer at the beginning, to be honest with you. I didn't know, like, why is he hiring this guy? And
you live there? Sorry? Your house. Oh, yes. Yes, you're right. The man who hires the detective should always be kept on the suspects list.
Who the fuck do I trust in this movie? My one forewarning to people is it's got a very convoluted story. It's a hard to follow movie, and it does take multiple, for me, because I'm stupid, it takes multiple viewings. Like, kind of bouncing back and forth and getting different takes from each movie helps me out a lot.
And the American version, like you were saying, cleans up the story a little bit and makes it a little bit easier to digest. But like the awkward sex scene when in the first one she has sex with Michael, it's like weird, like it's odd. And then in Fincher's it's like sexy and kind of romantic, and it felt wrong to me.
Again, Prince, I can't agree / disagree with you more. I cannot stress how we are literally 99% on the same playing field, because when you're used to the Swedish version first, you're used to Lisbeth's character being more standoffish. She has sex more with Mikael Blomkvist more in the Swedish version, and she basically kicks him out of fucking bed.
Right.
She bangs him and says, please leave. And he's even saying, I want more attention. I want to be close to you.
Right.
And she's like, no, peace, man. Like, get out.
You served a purpose.
Yes.
I'm done.
And so even especially the ending, she is more standoffish in the Swedish version, and that is a take. And once you kind of know her backstory to her abuse from her father, and obviously stuff we're getting ready to get into in a second, but the other abuses that she has suffered in her life, and having to be in the custody of the government as her parents
at
because she is deemed unmentally stable because of the trauma that has been pressed upon this poor fucking woman. There is definitely a take where someone can be standoffish and cold and just use sex is what it is. I like the feeling of it, but you gotta go.
Right.
Versus the Rooney Mara character, her interpretation in the initial sequences, Daniel Craig doesn't understand that she's a beaten cat. You know what I mean? He doesn't understand that. So he doesn't understand personal space. When she's at the computer, he comes over to her and just, basically like goes over her shoulder to like type shit on the same keypad, and she flinches like hell.
Right.
And that's a take too. And it is a take to be more standoffish, but it's also a traumatizing effect to know that this woman, after all these years of abuse, is maybe going to open herself up to someone. And fast forward to the end of the movie, she sets him free of his accusations. She goes and buys him a jacket because she is falling for this man and finally opening up, and then she gets her heart broken up again. Like, fuck, bro. Like, that for me, again, I can't say that either one's per se better, except I am barely saying, in my opinion, the Fincher version for me rides a little bit better.
Gotcha.
But it's so splitting hairs, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
man.
I get it.
They're great movies.
Agreed.
Okay, let's do some diving here.
How do you feel?
I feel
good.
Yeah,
You feel good?
No, I'm not. No, dude, and I'm glad you love the Swedish version.
Yeah.
I mean, I would recommend that to anybody.
Yeah.
I would recommend to anybody, of course.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the remake. Budget of $90 million. It globally came back with $232 million. Very soon after this movie, Marvel started hitting it big with like Avengers movies and making in the billions. They had told Fincher, hey, we're going to do like an adult series of movies.
But seriously, I wasn't that interested in the notion of making another serial killer movie as much as the studio was committed to the idea of a hard R-rated adult franchise. And I thought, I've been waiting my whole career to hear this.
unfortunately, whatever the reason, the critical response or the box office, whatever, he totally had plans. You know, we see that dude, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the guy from the RoboCop remake, Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah.
He's in for a flash second. His character continues on into movie 2 and 3, which never happened. Sadly, this movie never got to have the second and third one, which they always planned on doing.
Gotcha.
I weep for what could have been for this movie. I have a complete faith in what Fincher was setting up. There was an American Next Girl with the Dragon Tattoo that came out, directed by Fede Alvarez from the Evil Dead remake, and it stars Claire Foy. But yeah, and that one was stupid. Like, it was terrible.
Really?
Yeah, it was really not good.
I thought people really liked it.
No, and by that movie, she had become basically like a superhero. She was like an unstoppable force in that one. But it was based on the fourth book that was only half written by Stieg Larsson, the author of the books, because he wrote all 3 of the original books and then died while he was writing the fourth one, so they had to have a ghostwriter come in and finish up the fourth one. And the Fede Alvarez one was based on that book.
Gotcha.
And it was not good. All 3 of the, here comes that clown car again, delivering ice cream, but all 3 of the original Swedish movies and the books all came out after he died.
Oh,
he never,
gotcha.
Yeah, he never got to see any of his books come out or any of the movies based on it. I thought that kind of sucked.
It does.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the opening credits. What do you think of those, man?
It was a lot for me.
Dude, I fucking loved it.
Here's the problem. I watched them too close together, right?
Okay.
So I liked the Swedish version. And then, like, his take is, like, this slicker, all, like, straight lines and, like, very pretty. And it looks amazing. And in my head, this story is disgusting and gross and, like, gritty and...
God, I disagree with you, man.
Yeah, I know. I knew, like...
I liked the opening credits a lot. It was done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who did the score, which I love. We can talk about that in a second. So they wrote the song, and then they had Karen O. It's a cover of a Led Zeppelin song.
Right.
And I love the graphic design. The graphic design was done by Tim Miller, who directed Deadpool.
Gotcha.
And then he went on to do the Terminator Dark Fate movie. We were talking about the differences with the interpretations. His introduction to Elizabeth, they're calling her in to give her take on the Daniel Craig character, and an uncensored, what's not in the books take on Kale Blomquist.
It's possible we could wait forever.
You called her and spoke to her, didn't you?
I'm afraid that doesn't mean much. No one here particularly likes her. I find it's much better if she works from home.
But you told her I wanted to meet with her.
But I've told her many more times I prefer her not to meet clients.
You like her?
Very much. She's one of the best investigators I had, as you saw from her report.
But?
I'm concerned you won't like her. She's different.
In what way?
In every way.
I'm preparing you for this this hot topic nightmare to walk in, and she comes in and she's standoffish and she doesn't talk to him. She's so straightforward. She does not have any social skills at all.
Right.
He asks, what's something that you know that's not in the books?
May I go?
Moment. Your report is light in another area. His personal life. Anything you chose not to disclose?
Nothing that warranted inclusion.
Does that mean yes or no?
I think what Miss Solander means, and I agree, is that everyone has a right to a certain amount of privacy, even if they're being investigated.
Not in this case. I need to know if there's anything about him I might find unsavory, even if she doesn't.
He's had a long-standing sexual relationship with his co-editor of the magazine. It wrecked his marriage, but not hers. Sometimes he performed cunnilingus. Not often enough, in my opinion.
Oh, you're right not to include that.
I know.
You're shocked at first, but then it also says a lot. And that's Fincher, pervert that he is. You can tell she's the type of person who does not have company, and she's very heavy into her computer hacking and blah, blah, blah. But she slams ramen noodles in the microwave, and just her dress and her authenticity, and the tattoos look real. The piercings were actually real. I just liked her whole character design.
I mean, it was specific that she needs to look real and authentic. She can't look moneyed. She has to be iconic in her own way. She has to be dark and brooding and not being flashy and loud and not looking like, like she's in a punk rock band, not having all these crazy spikes and, the PVC leathers. And it was just making her look really cool and, really worn in and kind of used. For me, the Swedish version, their Solander was quite loud and and drawing attention to herself. I just wanted our Elizabeth, if she chooses to, she just kind of fades into the shadows. You know, she's not drawing attention to herself, but then she looks really off-putting as well at the same time.
What did you think of the score? Did you like it?
I did, but it wasn't like, remember like how we talked about Psycho, and it was like one of those things where this is iconically this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one of those kind of things. This one, the score didn't like take me to another place or elevate it for me.
You're so funny. You're cracking me up. I thought it was both amazing at pacing and keeping pressure on situations, but at other times could be beyond creepy. One of the most advancing scores for detective work I've ever seen, or heard, sorry.
So you're saying you liked
I
the
loved
score.
it.
Yeah.
It sounds like a computer made it. There's a scene where they're spying on Harriet. This is towards the end of the movie, and they're putting up cameras to spy on what turns out to be Harriet. This score sounds like something's being downloaded. It's great. It has ups and downs and creepiness, and it emulates what Elizabeth is feeling. You know, there's scenes where she walks into her government-appointed guardian. The score basically settles to a boil. It's basically her heartbeat, and it's just this pumping, throbbing kind of score that emulates that she's nervous as fuck because this is not good.
Right.
It's the same thing when she goes into the office for the first time. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't like interacting with people.
Right. Here's what I'll say, because, you know, we're at your place and we've watched movies here.
Okay.
I've watched movies at my own place.
Okay.
So the sound may not have had the same effect because of the different setups. Like I'm watching on TV speakers, and it's not, you know what I'm saying, like this experience with the Dolby Atmos. My Kindle tablet has Dolby Atmos, by the way. I just like to put that in. Yeah. Score and that kind of effect might be different for you for that reason, for me. I almost wish I'd worn headphones now and maybe.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So.
It's a fucking detective story. And besides some critical moments in the movie, there's a lot of detecting. It's her going into a library, and the same with him looking through files and pictures and connecting dots. That can get very tedious.
Right.
And a way to pick up the pace on that is to add a great score. Yeah, maybe good surround sound. I don't know. So the director of photography was Jeff Cronenweth.
Yeah.
He did Gone Girl, Social Network, Fight Club. He is the son of Jordan Cronenweth, who was the director of photography for Blade Runner. I know you haven't seen Blade Runner, but one of the main characters in the movie is a girl named Pris, who has her eyes spray painted black. The scene when Elizabeth comes back for her revenge, she has her eyes painted black, just like Pris from Blade Runner. Yeah, so, you know, you and I, last time we talked about Fight Club, we talked about some of the gags that the Blu-ray had. Fincher did it again on this one. The Blu-ray that said Sony DVD-R, and the name Girl with a Dragon Tattoo was handwritten in black marker, so you look like you were getting like this like hacker like download fucking disc. So I just thought that was really fucking cool.
That's a good touch.
You know, yeah, you're a football guy. Do you know the back history of Rooney Mara?
No.
Really?
Wait, what do you mean? Like the name?
No, hang on a second.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Her mom's family founded the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Her dad's family founded the New York Jets.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's a fun fact.
The horrible assault that happens to her. Well, there's two of them, but but the main one, both versions have their own takes, and they are really fucking hard to get through. Like,
agreed.
I mean, really hard to get through.
Yep.
And it definitely helps out for the revenge sequence that comes soon after. Of course, it's one of those moments where you're cheering. You're like, thank God I'm seeing this now, because holy fuck. And I remember seeing the Swedish version thinking, there's no American movie that's going to do a sexual assault sequence like that, like ever. I don't think we do that too many more in movies that are released in theaters. It went for it, man. It was rough.
Yeah, it did. I think at one point I thought they were going to do like the fade to black and just like suggest it. I think they kind of made it seem like it was going to do that, and then it comes back in and they're like, nope, you're going to ride this out.
And the shower sequence afterwards is really rough to watch, man.
Yeah, the in the bathroom washing her mouth out with the soap, like that part.
It's rough, bro. Sets a ugly tone for watching. This movie was shot on the Red Epic MX. This movie is fucking super clean, man. I mean,
I know.
It's gorgeous to look at.
I know.
It's shot well. It looks good. I mean, that's all of Fincher's movies. He never lets down on the look of his movie. I am so used to thinking of Daniel Craig as Bond. He's so badass. And even though he has a little more weight put on in this movie, he's still kind of getting a lot of women. So I was still kind of attached to him as Bond.
Right.
But dude, that scene at the end where he gets taken hostage, which is a brutal sequence. Yeah, it was really hard to transition to him being basically like a helpless piece of meat, man. That made made that scene like so intense, seeing not per se a hero, but like a guy you're used to seeing on top of his game,
sure,
and never getting caught like this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What do you think of Skarsgård in that scene, man, where he's just sitting there staring him down, telling him like, "Hey, man."
Skarsgård was amazing,
dude. Now, when he is draining the hope out of him,
yes,
fuck.
You knew something was wrong, but you came back into the house. Did I force you? Did I drag you in? No. All I had to do was offer you a drink. It's hard to believe that fear of offending can be stronger than the fear of pain, but you know what? It is. And they always come willingly. And then they sit there. They know it's all over, just like you do. But somehow, they still think they have a chance. Maybe if I say the right thing. Maybe if I'm polite. If I cry, if I beg. And when I see the hope draining from their face like it is from yours right now, I can feel myself getting hard. But you know, we're not that different, you and I. We both have urges. Satisfying mine requires more towels.
Now, that part, I watched that and I was just kind of like, oh, you know, like they're doing a thing here. This is good. And he's taking his time. Nothing's forced. He's got him strung up. He has no fear of this guy. The full-on assurance of himself that I can just take my time, you know. Like, I think that was great. Can we really quickly, again, to the cleanness and the look of the movie, this dungeon that they're in, this disgusting, it should have been something that looked like it should have been in Fight Club, which this movie, I think, doesn't look like. Fight Club is, you know, like grungier and has...
I agree with you and still disagree. Okay, here's the thing. Fincher purposely picked a guy who is so secure in the fact that he's getting away with murdering women throughout his entire life, that he has a house built out of complete glass. All four sides of his house are see-through glass. He is transparent. And a man who's very meticulous like this, he notices that there's a knife missing that Daniel Craig has taken and is going to possibly use on him, which is why he ends up pulling the gun on him. But only a meticulous man who has a meticulous torture dungeon would notice a knife is missing. Again, different takes, and I understand what you're saying because, yes, in the Swedish version, it's not per se a dungeon, but more nail and woods type of a build. And this one's more of a, holy shit, this is a bomb shelter. Probably eat off the floor. It's different takes, and I
totally get what you're saying. I'm curious if I'm a sociopath now, because I feel like I would notice a knife was missing and would inspect like what's going on around me. So that makes me question myself. No, that's a good point, though, with the house and the glass and then the meticulous.
Just different takes.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell you on it. You know that Rooney Mara and Joaquin Phoenix have a kid together?
I didn't know that, no.
I'm intrigued what Arthur Fleck and Elizabeth Solander's kid would turn out to be. That intrigues me.
Something amazing. Good or bad, I don't know, but something amazing.
Something I could see taking over. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. American remakes are a bit dicey for me. Oftentimes, they're only made because Americans are too lazy to read subtitles. There's a million amazing stories being told across the globe, and if people took the time to seek them out, we might not need as many American versions of movies. I wasn't sure we needed a remake of such an amazing movie only 2 short years after The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo came out, but ultimately, Fincher's version is slightly better. To me, making it a remake, I would recommend highly, and I usually am. Recommending things highly.
He's not lying.
No, I'm not. One thing I want to talk about before I think we're going to start closing it out here. I don't want to say that Swedish remakes were kind of hot at the time, but I did want to at least...
Are you going to bring up Crash again?
No. You know what, dude? I just told you I think we're trying to wrap it up, and I was thinking to myself, I think we're going to go the entire podcast without bringing up somehow Sandra Bullock, and you weaseled it in there. And the back nine, you little stinker.
That's great. That makes me so happy.
No. There's a Swedish movie called Let the Right One In from 2008. Did you ever see this?
No.
It's a fucking awesome vampire film. It came to the States and was a hit here also, and it's a great movie. That came out in 2008. In 2010, they did the American version. It was directed by Matt Reeves, who is doing the new Batman movie.
Gotcha.
You and I talked about trailers last time. That is a trailer that I have seen so many times, it's embarrassing. It's ridiculous.
I won't watch.
Oh, dude.
I won't watch.
Oh, man. If you watch that trailer once, you watch it multiple times.
No, I don't want to know anything.
But yeah, no, they're really good movies. So I don't know if that loosened the jar lid for
on subtitle
Swedish.
Movie?
Yeah, especially Swedish. Yeah,
gotcha. So I'll watch anything that's good, man. The one thing that stood out after watching all of your movies, and this includes 3:10 to Yuma, that, man, these are fucking dark. Like,
yeah, I'm
these
probably
go to really dark places.
You probably should have lightened it up a little bit.
No, they were all good movies. I was just like,
I definitely tried to make them
should
very
I reach out
different.
to my friend?
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm actually doing great.
Yeah.
I'll try to lighten it up for the next one. I'll keep it in mind. I'll know my audience next
Marley
time.
and me.
Wait, isn't that a tragic ending of a movie?
Oh, I have no idea. Now, oh my God. Now you got me going dark.
No, I think
Does
you
the dog
just
die at the
recommended a
end?
movie that's even sadder than all three of the movies I just recommended.
That's great. Thanks so much for that.
I think I just
You
ruined the movie
sent me
too.
down a
But
dark
yeah, no,
path.
you might be a little more stressed
Dang it.
than me, man. There was one thing I wanted to bring up before we close this out. I wanted to somehow try to connect some of these movies. So in Brewsters Millions, the 1945 version, Neil Hamilton plays Mr. Grant, the executor of the will for Brewster. Hamilton famously played Commissioner Gordon in the 1966 Batman movie and the TV series.
Great.
Okay. He plays the executor of the will and Commissioner Gordon. Brewsters Millions, 1985. Pat Hingle plays Ed Roundfield, the executor of the will. Hickle famously played Commissioner Gordon in the 1989 Tim Burton Batman movie. Hingle also starred in Quick and the Dead with Russell Crowe, where Crowe plays Court, a captured outlaw gunslinger. 3:10 to Yuma, 2007. Russell Crowe plays Ben Wade, a captured outlaw gunslinger. Crowe played Superman's father in 2013 Man of Steel. 3:10 to Yuma, 1957. Glenn Ford plays Ben Wade. Ford is more famous for playing Superman's father in Richard Donner's 1978 Superman.
Shut up.
And that's how I'm closing.
That's great. That's awesome.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. There was some other shit I was like trying to tie together, like where Danny Ocean was also Batman and Christian Bale and
I think you
Cesar
did tie that
Romero
one
with the Joker and Rooney Mara and Joaquin Phoenix. And then I honestly started editing myself. I'm like, well, that's actually, you're really stretching, But I was gonna play like 6 or 7 degrees almost of DC. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Like the Brewsters Millions guys both played Commissioner Gordon.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
And both Ben Wade's played a form
Superman's
of
dad.
One was Krypton, one was Earth. So I didn't mention that, so I kind of cheated. But I thought it was kind of
Gotcha.
interesting that there were some connections there.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome,
I just
man.
want to point that out. So hey, dude, as always, I love hanging out and watching movies with you. I'm glad you watched The Hunt for a Crimson Tide. But I'm glad you watched it, man. I'm glad
Me
you
too.
liked it.
I thoroughly enjoyed
Yeah.
it. Gene Hackman, Denzel Washington.
I had never seen Ocean's 11, the original. I'd never seen 3:10 to Yuma, so I forced myself, which is great.
Oh, you hadn't seen
I
the
hadn't
original?
seen the original. No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I'm a huge fan of the remake. I just think it's really, really, really good. As a parent, I really get emotional.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of parents can relate with having to feel like you haven't always been your kid's hero and you've struggled to get to the top of that hill. And so anyone who's kind of gone through that or climbed through that feel
We'll
like,
find this relatable.
oh, dude, on many, many, many levels.
Yeah.
And yeah, people headed to unsurmountable endings and just being super brave about it. I'm a sucker for that shit. There was a couple times in Crimson Tide where my hairs on my neck stood up, and that happens a lot, like in
Yeah, I
3:10.
think the scene where we talked about where Denzel takes the 2 punches and just stands,
man.
like he doesn't react. He just stands.
That's and the screaming fest that happens too
Yeah,
is a
absolutely.
great one.
This is expressly why your command must be repeated. It requires my assent. I do not give it. And furthermore, you continue upon this course and insist upon this launch without confirming this message first. I will be
Chief
forced
of the boat.
back by the rules of precedence,
As Captain and Commanding
authority
Officer of the
and
USS Alabama,
regulations
I order you to place the XO under arrest on the charge of
Navy regulations.
I say
to
again,
relieve
I order you to
of
place the
command,
XO
Captain.
under arrest on the charge of mutiny.
Some of the dialogue that I think I mentioned to you was punched up by Tarantino. The horses starting off white and changing black.
Speaking of horses, did you ever see those Lippinzahner stallions?
What?
From Portugal. The Lippinzahner stallions. Most highly trained horses in the world. They're all white.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You're aware they're all white, or yes, sir? You've seen them.
Yes, sir, I've seen them. Yes, sir, I'm aware that they're all white. They're not from Portugal, they're from Spain. And at birth, they're not white. They're black. Sir.
I didn't know that. But they are from Portugal.
I even noticed on this viewing, whether it's his dog taking a piss everywhere or whatever, he is constantly marking his territory. He is letting everyone, including his new XO, know, I'm the fucking boss around here. He bites the tip off of that cigar and hands it to Denzel. He's just had that cigar in his mouth. And that is another way of him marking his territory and saying to Denzel, hey, you're taking my literal sloppy seconds here. You know what I mean?
Solid
and
point.
I never noticed that before. And when you really watch the movie as it's a game of chess and Gene Hackman really is trying to stay in control and dominate. And so why that's so powerful when he gets his throne taken away, literally, he's sitting on that throne all the fucking time. When he gets his throne stripped of him, it just makes it even more powerful when you know throughout the fucking movie he has been marking his territory in an aggressive way.
Yeah, the dog scene that is so good and no one ever says a word.
Yeah. Denzel got first billing. That must have been a huge shift in his career. You know what I mean? I apologize for not knowing his career by heart. Like what must have come right before this where he's getting billed over top of the, Gene Hackman over Popeye from French Connection. I mean, this is a seasoned actor, and they went fucking toe to toe. And I'll be frank with you, I don't know who won as far as acting goes. I mean, different.
I don't think anybody
situations.
won. Yeah, I think they were both genius.
Oh, sorry, did I list off all the ones that I think we got sidetracked? So I hadn't seen 310 to Yuma.
Right.
I hadn't seen the original Brewsters Millions.
Right.
Ocean's 11. I hadn't seen the original of.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So this was great, man. One of the great aspects of this podcast is to force me out of my comfort zone. So yeah, man, I love the recommendations. I love the revisits, and it was awesome to check these movies out. So
that's great, and it was the same effect for me.
Awesome.
Getting out of the comfort zone. Yeah.
I can't wait to see what I have you on for the next podcast. But I would not rule out in the future another remakes episode. There's so many out there,
right?
And I will try to go a little lighter on my next one. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming over and doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, dude. See you. This will most likely not be the last episode we do on remakes. There's just so many more out there to explore, and I really look forward to revisiting this subject in the future. I'd like to thank my returning guest, Prince Lloyd, and the show's producer, Gigi Leish, for all her hard work, as this show would not exist without her. If you like what you heard on this episode, please subscribe to the podcast, and feel free to leave us a review. Follow us on our social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and until next time, stay sick.